Good morning, everybody. My name is Siobhan and I run my own business called At One Wellbeing. And I'm absolutely delighted that Anita and the NICHI team have asked me to do a series of videos around mental health and wellbeing, and particularly focused, I suppose, on the time that we're in, the time that we have been in, and I suppose looking forward to how we look after ourselves as we start the recovery from pandemic situation that we found ourselves in and lockdown. So basically, I'm going to be doing a series of videos with NICHI, with Cookstown and Western Shores Area Network, really focusing on how you look after your own mental health and how you build resilience for mental health. So this is the first in the series of videos, and it's called Coaching for Wellbeing. Now, what I'm going to do is go through a PowerPoint presentation. This is the first time I've ever done this particular program using Zoom. And recording myself, and the deep discomfort that you find and you feel when you're actually looking at yourself on a big screen, and then all the possibilities of what might go wrong in terms of the technology letting me down. But today is the first day that I'm doing this, so you're my test pilots. You're the people who will say that worked, that didn't work. But the fact of the matter is, it's all about you. It's all about encouraging you to look after your own mental health and well-being, because you know what? When you're well, it's amazing, but when you're unwell and when you feel really stressed, anxious, depressed, you know, it takes an awful lot of support and an awful lot of your own time and energy to try and rebuild your good mental health. So basically, I'm going to start sharing the screen now for the presentation, and seriously, fingers crossed that it works well. Just give me a wee second. Now, share, and we shall go to full screen. Yeah, go ahead, full screen. And in fact, it might be a good idea to go back to the very start. Don't look now, don't look. You're going to see everything that we're going to be talking about. So basically, the session outline today is to look at the background to the 5 steps to wellbeing, which is the most evidence-based way for you to look after your mental health and wellbeing. The 5 ways to wellbeing is really important because that should be the 5 steps to wellbeing, but nonetheless, the 5 ways to wellbeing, the 5 steps to wellbeing are like your 5 a day of fruit and veg. And you know that if you manage to eat 5 fruit and veg every day, it's good for your physical health. And basically what we're saying to you today is, if you can build these 5 steps into your daily lives, it's good for your mental health and well-being. Helps you build resilience to poor mental health. And actual fact, it makes life happier, it makes life feel better. Because when we're well, you know, life is good, but when we're feeling a bit low and if we have persistent low mood, then you know what, life can be a wee bit more difficult. And because I'm a life coach and executive coach and run my own business and do mental health and wellbeing training, which I'm very, very passionate about, simply because I know myself what it feels like to feel, you know, really anxious and really stressed out and worrying all the time about what might happen and what's going to happen and all of the things that go on in life, and being overwhelmed sometimes by the way life has been or the way life is. And you know what, when I think about this situation that we're in at the minute with the pandemic, with something that spread so quickly, with something that changed our lives immediately changed our lives. When lockdown came, life changed. And how I reacted to that change and how I realized that only by accepting that things were quite different was I able then to really, you know, unfreeze myself, let's just say, unfreeze myself, because I froze to the spot when I realized that I couldn't do the things that I normally do. And for me, that was really difficult because I had never imagined that that would be my reaction to such a change. But then when I rationalized it and realized this was a change that was totally outside of my control, this was something that I wasn't expecting, this was something that changed my life completely in terms of who I could meet, who I could see. You know, I was in and out of parents' houses, brothers' houses, sisters' houses, you know, all the time. And then to be here on my own, seeing nobody face to face, was really, really difficult. So then I started using the coaching tools that I myself, you know, work with other people to coach them to make changes. I was acknowledging, yes, that this is a difficult situation, but then taking step by step by step to get myself out of it. So that's why the coaching tools are so really very, very important, because knowledge is a wonderful thing. But knowledge is only part of it. You know, I can tell you today all about the 5 steps to wellbeing. I can tell you what they are. I can give you information on them. I can give you sources of further information on them. But until you start to take action, then it is simply information. So I hope that's clear. And normally, if I was doing this in a group situation, I'd be getting lots of comments and questions and all of that. And it's unfortunate we can't do it that way, but just bear with us and we'll take you through the program. And I know that if you have any questions, you can come directly to me. If you have anything that you want to ask Anita or the NICHI team, go directly to Anita. But in the meantime, let's get started. So background to this program, as I say, I worked, actually I didn't say, but I worked in the mental health sector as a chief executive for a mental health charity for close to 7 years. And you know what, recognizing all the amazing work that was done by the charity sector, I thought, right, okay, there's something that has instilled a deep passion in me to help other people. And that passion to help other people led me to retrain basically as a life and executive coach at the ripe old age of 46. And you know what, well-being is so important in my own life, and it's so important to me as an individual. How I keep myself well every day is probably the best thing that I can do for myself every day. So when I was thinking about what it is I would like to do in terms of program delivery and training and all of the things that goes through your head when you're setting up a business, what I recognized is that yes, some days are not that good. Some days you can feel pretty low. And what is it that can make a difference to you in your life? So the 5 Steps to Wellbeing is the most evidence-based approach to building mental health and well-being into your life and becoming more resilient to the lows and the things that can actually bring us down in life. And the 5 Steps to Wellbeing, as I say, is evidence-based. There was a huge amount of research done to collate these 5 steps to wellbeing. And it's not to say that they are the only things, right? But they have the most evidence behind them. And what we're going to do today is to go through each of those steps. And I'm going to ask you some questions about how you can make small changes, how you can do more of one thing, less of another thing. And basically to then get you to think about your own personal well-being, because this is about you. It's not about the other people that you care for and the other people that you love. And I'm sure if you're anything like myself, you would give your right arm to anybody. But this is about you and your own personal well-being. Because if you don't feel well in yourself, then it reflects in absolutely everything else that you do, whether it's relationships, whether it's your work, whether it's your family, whatever it is that you do. If you're not feeling well within yourself, that has a direct impact on all of that. So as I say, evidence-based, research-based. The New Economics Foundation did a worldwide scan of things that work for people. And what they did was come up with the 5 most evidence-based ones, and we're going to talk about them today. But before we talk about them, when you think about your own well-being, and well-being over the last, oh my goodness, is it 3 to 5 years, even maybe not as much, but well-being has become this big thing. In fact, well-being is nearly an industry. And what I want us to do today is not to think of that massive thing which is overwhelming when somebody says to you about your personal well-being, your mental health and well-being. What is well-being? So there's definitions going about all over, but what I would say is my definition, and it's the New Economics Foundation definition of well-being, is feeling good and functioning well. Feeling good within yourself, and then the ability to function in everyday life and function well in everyday life. And I suppose the background that I have is working with people who have the illness of depression. And you know, some of the stories that I heard around the massive challenges people with depression face every single day is, you know, not even wanting to get out of bed, not even wanting to wash their face or brush their teeth, brush their hair. And you know, those challenges are immense, and there's a lot of support out there for people who feel that way. But feeling good and functioning well, the ability to get up, to get washed, to put your feet in the ground first thing in the morning, to have sturdy relationships with people in your family, to feel good about yourself, to feel that it's, you know, I feel good, I want to go out, I want to go to the shops, I want to go to the cinema, you know, the things that we normally would have done. What is it that makes you feel that you're functioning well? And if we go through these 5 steps to well-being and you identify areas in your life where there is a wee bit of focus required, we're going to go through a model that we use in life coaching, which really gives you a framework, I suppose, to help you then to start building an action plan around your own mental health and well-being. Because when I think about mental health and well-being, I, think about physical health and well-being. When I was at school, we were taught the Green Cross Code. Anybody remember Tufty? Was it Tufty? Yeah, the Green Cross Code. We were so conscious of our good physical health when we were at school. I'm conscious of my good physical health all the time. When I get into my car, I put on my seatbelt. When I come to a junction, I look left and right and left again. There's things that I do to look after my good physical health. I take care of my diet, I drink a glass of water, all of those things that we know. We don't purposely put our physical health at risk. And sometimes when we are so unconscious about our mental health, we're actually not even thinking of ourselves in terms of our good mental health and well-being. And the encouragement that this very short session will give us is really to look at the things that we can positively and proactively do in our own lives for ourselves that will build good mental health and well-being. And the one thing I would say is, if you think that, maybe you are depressed or, you're feeling unwell, I would always say to anybody who feels that way, go and give your GP a ring and see really what is going on. But the focus of this program is on keeping well, being well, and living a fully functional and happy life. So that's the background. So what are these mysterious 5 steps to well-being? Okay, so you see well-being's in the middle, and you can see out around the outer edges there are 5 little circles. So the first one that we're going to focus on is connect. But what I would say is that these 5 steps are not to be taken in isolation. Because if you keep connecting and connecting and connecting, but you're inactive and you're not taking notice of things and you're not keeping learning and you're not giving, well then, you know what? 1 is good, 2 is better, 5 is the way to go. So the 5 steps to well-being: keep active, take notice, connect, give, and keep learning. Really important things for you to do every day. And the beauty of it is, none of them cost any money. They're all free of charge. And they can be built into daily life with a great degree of simplicity. And that's why they're so effective, is because they're actually simple. And I say simple in the terms that, if we can do it, fantastic, but sometimes simple things can also take a wee bit of effort. Everybody doing okay so far? This is so strange. I wish you were here talking to me. I wish you were here asking me questions. I wish you were here giving me a hard time and a bit of banter, which I love. So what we're going to do then is to look at step 1, which is connect. So when you're sitting there today watching this and you think about, well, number 1, how our connections have changed over this last 3 months. And again, I'll give you some personal reflection. My connections were really my family and my friends. And every single day, and I mean every single day, there was not a day that I didn't see my parents. There wasn't a day that I didn't see at least 3 or 4 of my nieces and nephews. There wasn't a single day that I didn't see my sister. Yeah, I have 6 in my family, but my sister, my brother, who lived quite close to my parents' house, I saw these people every single day. And you know what? That's important to me. That has always been important to me. And I invest a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort in maintaining positive connections. When lockdown came, my physical connections ceased. My parents are too old to use Zoom or FaceTime or any of the other things. So you can remember the weather back in March. It wasn't what you would call that warm. And standing at Mummy's back window, shouting in through the window was deeply unpleasant. And the fact that, my father was wondering why nobody was coming into the house anymore was deeply concerning. And so my connections, which were so important to me, in which I spent so much time and effort and energy, and actual fact, enjoying how connected I was, everything changed. I couldn't believe it. It was sitting here in my kitchen, eating my dinner on my own, whereas I normally spent time with my family. I had dinner at Mummy's house every evening, and so my connections completely disappeared overnight. And that was hard. I will admit that that was probably about the hardest thing that I experienced during lockdown. But on the flip side, you do remember then the weather started to warm up in April. I live in a small village called Clary near Portland, and I have been living here 14 years. And I would safely say that my connection to my community was very, very, very narrow. very narrow indeed. I knew the person on the left-hand side and the person on the right-hand side by name. Everybody else, I knew nothing. And I suppose, have you ever heard the term blow-in? Yeah, well, I was the blow-in from Balachi to Clary, and felt like a blow-in for 14 years. Then when the weather turned good, I got all active and thought, right, okay, I'm going to do the front garden, I'm going to get a new fence on. And in the meantime, everybody who lived in my street was doing exactly the same thing. So I'm talking to this one over there and that one over there, and, you know, going, crikey's almighty, you know what, this feels good. This feels really good. And then the beauty of it was as well, my next door neighbour James is a great singer, and during the clap for the NHS, James used to put on a concert. Well, a concert, I'm saying a concert, but he would have sang a couple of songs for us out at his front door. And you know what, the impact that that had on the community was phenomenal. People were coming out, they were standing, they were chatting to each other, social distancing, of course, but they were chatting to each other, and there was a real sense of community. And that connection, I realized, is so important. And I can tell you now that that is one thing that I'm going to be focusing my efforts on, is to maintain those connections that I made in that sense of community that I felt during the lockdown. Now I'm lucky enough that my connections have been re-established, the rules have been changed, and we're allowed to do things differently than we had been. But what I want you to do today is think about your own personal connections. Who is it that you're connected to? Who is it that you're connected to that is good for you? And are there people out there that you're connected with that don't make you feel that good? And are there people that you have lost connection with that were important in your life and that maybe you would like to re-establish a connection with? And could you connect more with your family? Could you connect more with your community? Could you connect more in your workplace? And are there things and people that you're connecting with who you could connect less with? And what they do say, and I have to say from my own personal perspective, you may disagree, but that feeling of connectedness is the cornerstone of good mental health. And as I said earlier, that's why I invest so much time and so much energy in maintaining my good personal connections, because they are so incredibly important to me. What I will say is everything that I talk about in this program in terms of those questions that I'm asking you to ask yourself, I also have worksheets for those, which I will send to Anita. And if you want more information on any of the stuff that I talk about today, please feel free to get in contact with myself or Anita. I'm sure Anita will put up the contact details on how you can access that information. Because me sitting here talking at you today is not the same as me handing you out some questions and asking you really to think through how your connections are important to you and how they make life better and how they're so good for your mental health and well-being. And I'm sure you're realizing as well when you see on the news stories about loneliness and isolation, especially during pandemic, and how massive an impact that that has on people's mental health and well-being, and what we as a community can do to support each other. And I don't even know where you live, but I am sure that in your own community during the whole lockdown phase, you saw many, many examples of the community-based organizations, church-based organizations, sports-based organizations coming together to do some fantastic stuff to keep us as communities well and to look after the isolated and vulnerable people within our own communities. And they did that because those connections are so incredibly important. And, you know, I can't emphasize enough about how good connections are good for you. Bad connections, you know, you may consider leaving them behind along with the lockdown. You may consider the things that you want to, and things and people actually that you want to bring forward, and the things and people that you're happy enough to leave in the past, because if they're serving you no purpose, they're serving you no purpose. And sometimes if they're serving you no purpose, they can make you feel a bit miserable. So, that feel okay for everybody? We're going all right, are we not? And me still sitting, chatting and looking at a screen and trying to look at the camera and not at myself, which is down there, and and so it goes. But nonetheless. So, step one accomplished. Well done. Maintain good connections. Think about how you can connect more. Think about how you can connect less. Think about all of the people who are important to you in your life and think about how you want to remain connected with those people. So step 2 in the 5 steps to well-being is give. And when I say the word give, sometimes people think, right, okay, so yeah, I do give to charity, or drop a stipend in the box going into church or chapel on a Sunday, and I give this and I give that and I give the other. And giving really is so fundamental to our good mental health and well-being as well. And it's that sense of, well, giving to others, right? Volunteering your time for a charity, volunteering your time for a community-based organization. There's something that makes you feel good about giving your time to other people, because they also feel good about getting your time. So there's a word, and I can never pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try it this morning. It's a reciprocal feeling, and the one I can't pronounce ends with reciprocity, or whatever way you pronounce that. Sorry. I know, reciprocity, whatever it is. So there's a reciprocal feeling about giving to other people that makes you feel good. Have you ever given somebody a present, like a birthday present or a Christmas present, or a gift of some kind, or even a bunch of flowers, and seeing the smile on their face, and doesn't that make you feel absolutely wonderful? You give your time to volunteer. There's just such a feel-good factor about doing something for other people with no expectation at all on getting anything by return, and that fosters a feeling of goodwill, a feeling of well-being, that if we continue to give to others, it does create a sense of well-being. But I'm also really acutely conscious that we can spend our lives giving to each other. And I spend my life giving my time to nieces and nephews, and, you know, helping them through interviews, and, you know, preparation for interviews, and building CVs for them. I absolutely love it. I put nearly every single one of them through the transfer tests, you know, the 11+ in its time, and spent months in advance helping them to prepare for the 11+. And, you know, there was just that really, really nice feeling of me helping, you know, because when I look back, there was nobody, and I know it was different times and I'm not complaining, but there was nobody there. Everybody, my aunts were having children and they were really busy. And I just think if I can help anybody at all and give my time or effort or expertise or whatever it is, if I can give that, that makes me feel really, really, really good. But sometimes I can become a bit overwhelmed with how much time I give to other people. And then I have to really think about what it is that I give to myself, right? Because when you're giving to other people all of the time, it can wear you down. It can really wear you down. So what is it that you give to yourself every single day? You know, generally, sometimes we can give ourselves a pretty hard time about, I'm not good enough and I can't do, and, you know, I'm too this and I'm too that, and I shouldn't have tried, and I'm not going to, and da-da-da. And we can have this internal dialogue with ourselves that can bring ourselves right down. And part of the videos that I'm doing in this series for Cookstown and Western Shores Area Network covers areas like, you know, negative thinking, the inner critic, how you talk to yourself, how you feel about yourself, and then really, in fact, what changes can you make to your thinking styles, to your self-belief, to your motivation, to your confidence, to your feelings of self-esteem that make you feel much better. So when I say about giving to yourself, it really is sometimes about just taking a step back, taking a rest, doing something nice for yourself, doing something kind for yourself, showing yourself some self-compassion, compassionate towards yourself. Like if a child fell down and hurt its knee, wouldn't you lift that child up and give it all of the attention? And yet sometimes we don't even think of ourselves like that. We don't even think of ourselves that I actually need to give myself a break here. I need to do something for myself that I enjoy. And it really doesn't matter what it is, whether it's going out for a walk, whether it's listening to a meditation, whether it is doing a wee bit of creativity, whatever it is. It's really important as well that you give yourself kindness, loving kindness. Have you ever given yourself a hug? And, you know, I was just reflecting on this the other day. You know, like even that just wrapping your arms around yourself, because we can't reach out and hug anybody else at the minute. And just that feeling that you get from, you know, that personal touch and that touch, that hug yourself. It's really important not only to be giving to other people, but also to give yourself time and to give yourself kindness and to give yourself compassion. And that's really important. So the questions that I would invite you to ask yourself today, and as I said, there are handouts available with all of these questions on it. So what is it that you already give to other people? What is it that you give to yourself? Is there more that you could give? Because that well-being feeling that giving creates, is there more that you could do? And in fact, if sometimes you find that you're giving too much, is there less that you can do? And what is it today and every day? And build this into the pattern of your life. What is it that you can give yourself more of? And the answer is not a hard time. The answer may be kindness. The answer may be time. The answer may be relaxation. It may be something physical, something that you truly enjoy. What is it that you can give yourself? So step 1 and step 2 done. And we're on an absolute roll today. So step 3 then is about taking notice. So when lockdown started, did you notice there was no traffic sound on the road? The sound of the birds singing was, I would say, deafening, but it wasn't really deafening. The sound of the birds singing I have never heard in my life before. I have never heard in my life before. And then I think, was it because I was too busy to notice? Or in actual fact, was the world too busy and the birds weren't singing? Right? So taking notice is so powerful when it comes to really building your resilience to poor mental health and those feelings of well-being. And it is just simply taking notice of the things that are going on around us, taking notice of the feelings that we have and the emotions that we have, but really using time every day just to appreciate what is going on around us, and really to appreciate the beauty of this place that we live, and to appreciate the birds in the trees, to appreciate the green grass, to appreciate where we live. And in actual fact, would you believe, right? You talk about taking notice. I have been going through my life at high speed. And when lockdown happened, a friend of mine called me and said, listen, do you want to go out for a social distancing walk? And he said, I do, surely. So there was a whole new scheme done in Clary, which widened footpaths, amazing scheme to encourage people to walk, obviously. So myself and my friend went for a walk, and we walked down to a footbridge over the Clary River. I've lived in Clary 14 years. I lived the rest of my years in Balahi, which is what, 4 miles away. And I had always heard my mother talk about this footbridge that took you from Clary into Innisrush when she went to school as a child. And you know what, for years, I didn't even think that footbridge was there. So my friend and myself walked down to the footbridge, and I could not believe that a mile down the road from me was such absolute beauty, an absolutely beautiful walk. And you stood in the footbridge and you saw the Clary River flowing away down towards the Ban, and it was absolutely amazing. And I was very surprised that, having lived here for such a long time, that I didn't even know that this existed, because you know what, I really wasn't taking notice of what was going on around me. And the beauty about taking notice is that you can stop. You can stop at any time of the day. Look up, look out, and appreciate the greenness of the trees in my backyard. Appreciate that, yeah, the sky is grey, but it's not raining. Appreciate the beauty of this place that we live. And you know what? I have deep appreciation for the fact that I am here. Deep appreciation and gratitude for the life that I have. And you know, it's not a sparkly, shiny, wonderful life, but it is a great life because I have gratitude and I appreciate the life that I have. And there are other techniques that you can use, and I'm sure you've heard of the term mindfulness. And mindfulness really is a way for us to take notice of what's going on in the here and now. Because there are a lot of people who live in the past, thinking about all of the things that happened in the past and about, you know, reliving these stories and experiences in your own head. And that, I mean, that's okay, because memories are great and I have some wonderful memories of the past. But if I keep on dragging myself back into the past, then I'm living there, and I can't live there because it's gone. And I can't change it no matter how hard I try, because it's gone. And then sometimes I project myself into the future going, I wonder what this time next year, what will I be doing this time next year? I wonder what will happen to me and who'll be about and blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to project myself into a future which doesn't exist either. So mindfulness teaches us that the only place where we can have peace of mind is in the right here, right now. And there are techniques that we can use in mindfulness, mindfulness meditation, mindfulness body scan, which we can use successfully to really get us back to the here and now. Successfully, I say, but not simply, because I do mindfulness meditation and the mindfulness body scan. And, you know, it's effective, it's very effective because it stills my mind. But when I hear a car door bang outside or a dog bark outside, sometimes I'm right outside with that dog or with that door. And it's practice. You see, it takes practice, practice, practice. And the techniques of mindfulness and meditation do take practice, because staying with yourself for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever you can do, is really important, because it enables you to take notice of the here and now and to live in the here and now, which is the only place that we can live. We can't live in the past, we can't live in the future. The present moment is the only place that we can live. And it's about building those things into your daily routines, about taking that couple of minutes every day just to lift your head, just to say, I am taking notice of what's going on around me. I'm taking notice of my heartbeat. I'm taking notice of my breathing. I'm taking notice of how tight my shoulders feel, and I give myself permission to drop those shoulders down. And, you know, when we ask ourselves the questions is, what is it that you take notice of that makes you feel good? What more could you do to take notice every day? And how can you take notice of what's going on with yourself, inside yourself, in terms of how you're feeling? And taking notice is a very effective and powerful tool for you just to be grounded in the present moment. And as I say, you know, sometimes I live in the past, sometimes I try and project myself into the future. As yet, time travel has not been established, and I can only live here, and I can only live now, and I am determined in my own personal life to make the most of every moment. And it is by taking notice, even when I'm out for a walk along the Claddy River, taking notice of the water and how the water changes with the levels of rain and the birds and the, oh my goodness, you know what, just being present in your own life, being present in your own life, not worrying about anybody else, but just being here present in your own life, because you know what, it's a very, very, very important place to be. Step 3 done. So this is my favorite topic, the be active topic. Yes, indeed, be active. One of the scourges of my life, be active. Being active, of course, is good for your physical health. Being active is, of course, good for your mental health. Being active is one of the biggest challenges for me when it comes to the 5 steps to well-being. And how I talk to myself about being active stops me from being active. It's this persistence, right? Okay, see, tomorrow you're going to get up and you're going to go out and you're going to walk from here to Portland. And I get up and I don't do it. And then the evening time, oh my God, there's another day gone. And you didn't do it. And when are you going to get started anyway? For God's sake, could you not do something? Lying about, lazy, blah, blah, blah. So by the very conversation I was having in my head, I was totally and utterly demotivating myself to becoming more active. And you can have those conversations with yourself, which stops you from doing things that are good for your mental and physical health. And I know it because I'm a human being. And I expect that quite a lot of people have rare and random conversations with themselves, and fairly negative tone, which can leave you totally and utterly, no, my goodness me, I'm doing nothing. So when I say about being active, I don't mean you have to like go out and run 10 miles. Being active is just being more active in your own life. The good news is, by the way, I get over myself and I stop talking to myself negatively, and I stop beating myself up about doing no exercise, and I walk now every day. And you know what the beauty of it is? I have a friend who also likes to walk every day, and see that companionship and that buddying up with somebody, that is what has made all the difference for me, in terms of knowing there's somebody there, knowing that I can have a bit of a chat and a bit of a yarn, and that I'm not out walking on my own. Me and her walks along the Clady River, down to Portland, along the Ban at Portland. The chat goes on, you're looking about, we're talking about how lovely it is, and it's just a fantastic feeling. But being active can mean, you know, walking about in your back garden, getting up and walking up and downstairs, you know, putting a wee bit of oomph into the housework, a wee bit of oomph into washing the floors, a wee bit of oomph into hoovering. Whatever it is you can do is good enough. And that is the main thing that I would say. Whatever it is that you can do, it's good enough. But the one question then I would ask you, is there a wee bit more that you could do? Because my life has been very, very active, but it was active in a different way. It was active in jumping into the car and driving to Belfast to deliver training, or, you know, jumping into the car to go to Antrim or Fermanagh or wherever it is to, you know, see a group and do a session with a group. My life was incredibly active, and I was on the go all the time. And what I found was, when I became less active, not even during the pandemic, actually before that, when I left my full-time job to set up my own business, I spent quite a long time sitting on my backside. And, you know, had I sat any longer on my backside, you know, my activity levels would have been so low that it would have been really, really difficult to do anything. So is there something that you really enjoy doing? Is there something that you've done in the past that you loved and just don't do anymore? What more can you do? What way can you just push yourself a tiny little bit to become more active in your life? And is there somebody who can help you? Is there somebody that can go out for a walk with you even once a week? Is there somebody that can go to the gym with you once a week? Is there somebody that, you know, you want to do some form of exercise with, because it does help when there's somebody else there, because it motivates you and it gets you going? All right. So that's the questions for Be Active. You see, I didn't spend quite as much time in being active. All I want to say is, see, when I'm out walking, I might have had the worst day. And when I meet Helen, my friend, in front of Clady Secondary School, and me and her walk, see, by the time I get back, I'm feeling far, far, far better. So only one thing I want to do now is plug in my laptop, because she's gone a wee bit dark, so bear with me. Do you know what? I'm actually quite enjoying myself now that I've got into the way of going. So anyway, next one is to keep learning. And keeping learning is good for your mental health, because it keeps that creativity and that wonderment going in your life. And that if you learn a new skill or something that you didn't know, there's a really good feeling that you get. And you know, that sense of achievement when you learn something new. It's like me, for example, at 47 years of age, I took up canoeing. Right? I wouldn't exactly call myself a water baby, but I took up canoeing simply because I had an office down in Portland, and they were looking for members of a committee for a new canoeing club in Portland. And well, I said, you know, it's like that. When you give, you give. I thought, well, do you know what? I don't mind. I have some skills in that area of sitting on committees and, you know, running organizations. I'll help out, I'll do it for a year, and then just to get it off the ground. And then I did recognize and realize that I cannot authentically sit on a committee for a canoeing club, never having been in a canoe in my life. So that drove me then to take up canoeing. And you know what? It was one of the best things that I have ever done for myself. I love it. Not only am I learning a new skill, which is how to turn, how to backward paddle, how to forward paddle, how to self-rescue, you know, all of the things that I'm learning, and all the different strokes, and what makes you go faster, what makes you go slower, who steers the canoe, the person at the back, the person at the front, all of that stuff, which I never would have had a clue about. I felt amazing. Amazing. just to know that even at 47, 46, 47 years of age, I could still learn a new skill. And the feeling that that gave me was absolutely fantastic. So what is it that you would like to learn about? Is there something that you did in the past, like play the guitar? Would you like to just reinvigorate that skill? Is there something that you would like to learn, like a language or something new? Because learning about something new is good for our mental health and well-being. So when I think about the canoeing, that made me feel fantastic. I absolutely love it. Of course, we haven't been able to get out now recently, but the fact of the matter is it's still a skill I have and a skill I won't forget. And you know, they do say, you know, every day is a learning day, or you learn something new every day. Well, do you? Do you learn something new every day? But when you focus your energy and effort into keeping learning some small thing, some maybe creative skill, something that you know that you can do, something that you're really, really interested in, there's such a good feeling about having learned something new. And then if you can apply that learning and help other people, fantastic. But there's just that sense of gaining something, which is so important to our sense of well-being. And keeping learning can build our self-confidence. It can build our self-esteem. It can help us to develop relationships, friendships, because now I'm connected with a group of people in Portland from all over this area. And you know what? See, when lockdown came and we couldn't get out in the cruise, oh my goodness me, we were sharing all of the good stuff that we were doing in our own houses, like my painting projects and Tony's gardening projects. And it was really inspiring us. You know, I had planted carrots, I had planted lettuce, and the sense that I get, oh my goodness, they're growing, and I'm constantly looking at the wee pots. So there's something about that, keeping learning and doing something that gives you a sense of attainment, a sense of gaining something that is so good for your mental health and well-being. So that's the 5 steps to well-being covered. And as I said earlier, Anita or myself will share with you all of the information, all of the questions that we have around the 5 steps to well-being. But I think one really important thing for us as well is not just to think that's wonderful, I now know what they are. In actual fact, as I said at the very, very beginning, knowing what they are and doing them is 2 completely different things. Believe it, I know this stuff. I know this stuff because I have known about the 5 steps to well-being for quite some time. But in actual fact, it's putting them into my daily life that has made the difference. So when you think about your own well-being and your own daily life and the struggles that we all have and the challenges that we all have, what is it that you can do around these 5 steps to well-being to make yourself feel better? So life coaching, as I said earlier on, it's a tool that we use to get people unstuck, to help them realize how wonderful and amazing they really are, is to give them permission to live their life and to believe in themselves and to have change and opportunities and all of the things that are open to us as human beings, and to move forward with growth and transformation in our minds. That's what life coaching is all about. I'm not going to spend too much time because, you know what, this is not about me and what I do. This is about you and what you can do. So what I wanted to go through very, very quickly, and again, I have a worksheet for this if you're interested in using it, is to go through the tools, one tool, I call it the growth tool. And that enables you to bring about change. So when I talk about growth, G-R-O-W-T-H, down the left-hand side, probably the right-hand side for you. So basically, when you want to make changes to anything in your life, you know, we can all be aspirational. This time next year, I will be half a stone lighter. This time next year, I will have pure white hair, which I fully intend doing because it's not that far away. We set ourselves goals all the time, but if they're high level and aspirational goals, sometimes they actually don't work. And then when you set yourself a goal and it doesn't work, you actually feel worse. You feel worse because you think, right, okay, you know, it's like these things we say at the, what do you call it, New Year's Eve or New Year's resolutions. Right, that's it. I'm not going to eat cake for a month, and I'm going to stop drinking for a month, and there will not be a packet of crisps across my lips for 6 months. And then 2 days later, you're like, yum, 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 prawn cocktail crisps, my favorite. and next thing you're eating the prawn cocktail crisps. So there's something about setting aspirational goals without really taking any action around how you're going to do that, that can sometimes set us up to fail. So when you think about your well-being and you think about the 5 steps to well-being, what goals would you like to set yourself? So say, for example, if it was me, and I'll talk you through this example. So I'm going to set myself a goal around being more active, and I'm going to take up Couch to 5K. So my goal is to run Couch to 5K and do it in 2 weeks, right? Then when you start to look at the reality around that goal, Couch to 5K, I detest running. I hate running. I have not run the length of myself since 1975, and that's quite some time ago. I hate it. I hate the feeling of it. I hate the look of it. I hate how it makes me feel. So the reality around that goal is totally unrealistic. I am never going to do a Couch to 5K. I am not, well, I was going to say I'm totally unfit. I'm not totally unfit, but I'm not fit to achieve Couch to 5K in 2 weeks' time. So when you start to look at reality and how realistic your goals are, if they're not realistic and if the reality does not meet the objective of the goal, it's not the right goal. A more realistic goal for me is to start walking 2 miles a day. The reality is I have access to pavements, I have access to the outdoors, I have access to some beautiful river walks around where I live. That is much more realistic for me. And then when I look at the options, well, yes, 2 miles is good, 3 miles is better. 3 miles would be fantastic. I could walk from here to the top of Portland, and that's 2.8 miles. I could walk from here to the new river walk down along the Claddy River, and I can walk over to the Old Greenlock Chapel and back again. That's 4.5 miles. There are so many options available to me around what I want to do with that goal. And the willingness, you see, is a thing that always challenged me. It's that kind of like with every choice comes a consequence. And if you make no choice, there is no consequence. Or is there? Because, you know, when I was thinking about doing the walking and trying to push myself out of the house and get the trainers on and go, my willingness was like 0. Because I really hadn't said or set myself a realistic goal that between now and September, this starting in March, between now and September, you're going to be walking at least 2 miles, if not 4, at least 4 days a week. And to me, that felt great. And that's what changed, you see. It wasn't that urgency that you need to be walking every day. And if you don't walk every day, it's not good enough, Siobhan. In actual fact, walking 4 miles or 2 miles or even 1 mile 4 days a week is perfectly good enough, Siobhan. And that relieved me of that burden that I was putting on myself, that it has to be every day and it has to be long, big walks. In actual fact, it does not. It has to be something that's achievable for me, something that I actually feel that I can do, and something that, you know, is realistic for me. So then the tactics and habits. What tactics do you need to put in place to enable you to reach your goal? And then what habits do you need to form? So my habit of getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and thinking, oh yes, I'm full of energy and I'll go now. No, that is not the right thing for me to do. That is not the right tactic for me. The right tactic for me is to, if I'm not busy, I'll message Helen and I'll say, do you fancy a walk? Helen comes back saying 7:30. I go, fine. Yep. And it is a habit. It is about setting new tactics for ourselves. How are we going to go about achieving this goal? And what new things do I need to do for myself to enable me to achieve this goal? So growth. Isn't life all about growth? And if you take your 5 steps to well-being and your personal approach to your own well-being, you may wish to, I'm going to have to move the screen of the camera down here. Okay, so when you think about your well-being, right? So I have done a well-being hand here. So what you can do is draw your own hand and you can map where it is you feel against, you know, your own hand. So say if your connections aren't good, but you would like them to be good, they're down here. But taking notice is brilliant, so it's up here, and then giving. So it's about your own personal well-being and how well you feel you're doing in terms of your own personal well-being. and where you might actually need to focus your attention. And you know what? Focusing your attention is so important because life is busy, and I understand that life is really busy. And you can get to the end of the week and wonder where that week went to. But if you bring attention to your own sense of well-being and what it is that you want to do for yourself, what things have you been doing that you want to stop doing? What things are you happy to leave behind in the past which no longer serve you well? And what new things do you want to bring into the future that will help you with that sense of achievement, that sense of well-being, feeling good and functioning well? Isn't that the ideal, to feel good and function well? So if you even wanted to start this exercise today and say, right, okay, well, I can draw around my own hand, I've got a pen and a piece of paper, and look at where you're at in terms of your own well-being, and it'll bring into sharp focus what things that you need to be doing. What actually would you like to do for yourself? What would you like to do to improve your own mental health and well-being? And mental health and well-being is so crucial and so key to us living our lives and living a full life and a good life and a happy life. And I hope today what I have taken you through has been in some way useful to you. I know it's really difficult to maintain your attention for this duration of time. You can stop this and start it again. You can go through it quickly. You can slow it down. This is for you to use for your own mental health and well-being. And you know what? Much as this is the first time I've ever done it, I think we achieved what we set out to achieve, which was to talk about the 5 steps to well-being, which was to talk about how coaching can be used to promote well-being in terms of the questions that you can ask yourself, and how setting goals and developing well-being actions for yourself is one thing that you can do as we are progressing through this phase of our lives. What is it that you are taking forward? What positive things do you want to do? What actions do you want to put into place? What things can you do for yourself? And it's so important that we take personal ownership for our own well-being. I can't make you feel well. You can't make me feel well. But what we can do is put energy and effort into how well we feel ourselves. So as we're coming to the end, I thought I would give some further sources of further information. Public Health is a really good, sturdy source of information around mental health and well-being. They have now developed a new hub during COVID-19, and the website is CWSANCRUN.info, and all of the mental health charities have come together to pool all of their resources on how to look after your mental health, what to do if you're feeling depressed, anxiety, stress, and all of the things that can impact upon our mental health. And of course, mindingyourhead.info is an excellent source of sturdy, authentic information, which is evidence-based. My own website. And then if you wanted to look at mindfulness meditation, I just thought about to put the headspace.com up there. There's an app that you can download and it as well. And then the whole source document for all of the information that I've talked about today is the New Economics Foundation, which is nef.org.uk. Generally, this is the time when I would say, has anybody any questions, any observations, any comments that they would like to make? I would love to be in a position to hear all of them, but I can't. I can't even see you. I'm not even in the same room as you. But who knows, as time goes on, we may well get to meet each other. And I would like to congratulate Anita and Cookstown and Western Shores Area Network for bringing this sort of content directly into your home, where you can sit in your own time and listen to some, well, what we hope is useful tools, techniques, and tips to maintain your good mental health and well-being at this time. All I want to say is thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for, fingers crossed, you kind of participated and thinking through the questions that I was asking. And thank you to Anita for organising this all for us. So listen, I'm away now to actually get a glass of water. I should have had a glass of water sitting beside me. Every day is a learning day. So the next time you see me, I'll have the glass of water sitting there. So that's us done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I sincerely hope to see you again shortly. And I'm going to look down here now because I'm going to end, and I'm going to stop recording, and then I am going to switch this off. Listen, have a great day. Try your best to be well. Put actions in place to help you to be well, and be active in your own lives. Have a great day. Bye.